behalf of the Institute for Philosophy and Social Theory, let me first thank you all for coming today, and let me immediately thank the Italian Cultural Institute in Belgrade for their hospitality. It all started with the suggestion and conversation Sasha Hernes had with the director of the Italian Cultural Institute, Davide Scalmani, and Professor Gaetano Curazzi, which have been translated into reality, bringing us here now. Allow me to also thank you, associate from the Institute, Irena Fiket, as well as Paola Cordone, Jelena Radovanovic, and my other colleagues and associates from other cultural centers here in Belgrade. In particular, I would like to welcome the latest class of fellows from the Regional Center for Advanced Studies Southeast Europe, and also friends Zdravko Kove and Aleksandra Mancic, Luka Ileterati, who is not here still. I should also express to you my disconcertion regarding the language in which I am speaking. Not because this language will soon no longer be the official language of any country of the European community, or that I am facing so-called European plurilingualisms found in the rationale of this conference. Rather, it is that when I'm speaking in one language, I of necessity exclude all other languages. My consolation, however, is that what I am now reading before you is already a translation, that my activity now is already necessarily European par excellence, and indeed in accordance with the position best formulated by one who since Leibniz wrote best about a universal language. I quote, "The language of Europe," says Umberto Eco, "is translation." This is a translation. The only thing on which I wish to insist at the beginning of our little gathering today is that by defending translation and the right to translation, we are actually defending the right to the untranslatable. Untranslatable is not merely a translation that has missed its target, or what resists reduction or simplification, that which is authentic or native to a language. It is at the point of untranslatable that begins the discussion, negotiation, differentiation of mine and yours, or, if you will, the point at which war could erupt or philosophy spring. Philosophy never takes place in a single language, but always between languages, in distinctions, or even in opposition to other languages. And it is this untranslatable that implies translation or provides the imperative. Translate, keep translating, or peace. What is untranslatable is not only what is mine, but can only be mine when it is translated, when the other recognizes it as mine or perhaps as theirs. We translate so we might with other decide what is best for all, to learn how to understand and accept what is untranslatable in each. It is for this reason that translation is a European issue, necessarily bound with democracy, community, and peace. One who abandons Europe or resists Europe truly overestimates and confuses what is one's own or what is untranslatable. This begins provincial mistakes, such as this quote by the philosopher Franz Rosenzweig at the moment of writing a soldier of Austria-Hungary who finds himself in the vicinity of Belgrade in December 1915. He said, "Pacifism conflates or verwechselt pure language or klare reine Sprache und Esperanto. When I mention this word untranslatable, I beg you, when you hear this word, I would like to instantly bite your tongue and remember on an anecdote often retold in French, although it might have taken place in German and been translated into French. Namely, at a conference in Cerisy in 1955, someone asked Martin Heidegger, who, to be sure, understood French, "Pourquoi vous complaisez-vous dans l'intraduisible? Why do you wallow in the untranslatable?" To which he responded with a question: "Intraduisible en quelle langue? Untranslatable in what language?" Esperanto, or the machine, or Google Translate, brings with it pseudo-understanding or pseudo-peace or pseudo-harmony precisely because it does not know and ignores what is untranslatable. Barbara Cassin, who we are very sorry is not here today, and she is the author of Vocabulaire européen de philosophie, Dictionnaire des intraduisibles, European Philosophical Vocabulary, Dictionary of the Untranslatable, for which I have not been able to rally interest in translation among Yugoslav philosophers, explained this in an interview with our guest from 2007, Michel Ustinov. This interview was translated to Russian as "Защиту непреводимости" in defense of the untranslatable. The dictionary regrettably contains a bizarre and provincial entry, which names is Français de la langue française comme évidemment, which the English version gives as French, made by Alain Badiou. One philosopher, Tim Crane, pointed this out 2 years ago. In the entry, Badiou uncovers the main characteristics of French as an alternative for overcoming English used by scientists and academics. Much as I'm now speaking English, even though I'm a translated or naturalized Frenchman. French, says Badiou, is a language, I quote, is a language of women and the working class rather than a scientist. Philosophy in French is, I quote, violently polemical, ignoring consensus, still opposed to the academy, it speaks to the public and not to the colleagues. We really ought to disregard this distinction. The theory or the history of translation is, of course, always the history of untranslatable. 5 years later, in a letter to Scholem of March 10 in 1921, Rosenzweig says, "Übersetzen kann nur, wer von der Unmöglichkeit innig überzeugt ist. In Italian, tradurre può solo chi è intimamente convinto dell'impossibilità." Only one deeply, truly or intimately convinced of the impossibility of translation can begin to translate. Perhaps translation can happen, says Rosenzweig, but only after the bearer of this act first concludes and accepts entirely and without either reminder or condition that translation is impossible. Translation appears when the true impossibility of translation is revealed. Only then, and only then follows the essential paradox, for at once everything is untranslatable and nothing is untranslatable. All we are left with is to forever patiently dwell between these two hyperboles. Such was the recommendation of Jacques Derrida, of which I today have the pleasure to remind you. Thank you And once again, I wish you all the best. Thank you.